Hello guys, it's been a long time since I've made a video. So today's video is a basic insights on how to solve questions related to the topic quadratic formula and the discriminant. I know many of you guys have this topic coming up for exams, so hopefully this video can help you all in order to understand these type of concepts. By the way, in question 4, so do watch the whole video. In question 4, I would be doing some sketching the graphs using the turning points and do the x and y intercepts. By the way, time codes will be in the description box below so that you guys can skip any questions you guys like. And if you guys have enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And yeah, let's start with the video. Alright, so the first question is asking us is to use the quadratic formula to solve each equation giving answers in served form. Now, the main thing about the quadratic formula is that you guys have to know what the quadratic formula stands. Like, we have to understand how the quadratic formula will look like in equation form. So my first advice to you guys is to write down the quadratic formula on the sheet. So the quadratic formula will be given to you in the, usually I think in the formula sheet. This is for the IGCSE, and in A levels it would be better for you guys to know the quadratic formula by heart. So the quadratic formula is x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Alright, and you have to use the formula as well. Ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So you have to use these two formulas. This is one important tip that you guys have to take down, is that you have to use these two formulas when dealing with the quadratic formula and the discriminant. Alright, so first of all, the first step is to always simplify your equation. So what I'm going to do for this question is I'm going to open up the brackets. So once you multiply these two brackets, you get 4x squared minus 12x is equivalent to 11 minus 4x. Now you're going to rearrange all this equation to make it into ax squared plus bx plus c is equivalent to 0. So you're going to rearrange the formula in that style. So what I'm going to do is going to be 4x squared minus 12x minus 11 plus 4x is equivalent to 0. You're going to rearrange the equation like that. So you have 4x squared minus 12x plus 4x minus 11 is going to be equivalent to 0. 4x is just going to remain the same. Now you're going to use your calculator to put in the values. Minus 12 plus 4 to give us a value of minus 8x minus 11 is equivalent to 0. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the calculator to solve this quadratic equation. By the way, you guys can check out my other video on how to solve questions using the calculator. I might put it up in the end of the video as well. So since we have a to b as 4, b is going to be equivalent to minus 8, and c is going to be equivalent to minus 11. So you have to carefully place your values. Now, the question is asking me to use the quadratic formula, but I just want to confirm the values of x. So I'm just going to use the calculator just to confirm the values of x and what they are. So x1 is going to be equivalent to 2 plus square root of 15 divided by 2. That's the answer the calculator gives. And x2 should give us a value of 2 minus square root of 15 divided by 2. Now we're going to confirm these two answers with the knowledge of the quadratic formula. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula. In this case, it's going to be x equals minus b plus or minus. Do remember to learn this whole formula. B squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Okay, we know the value of a, we know the value of b, and we know the value of c. All we have to do is just substitute all these values into the quadratic formula so that you get the value for x. So you're going to get x is equivalent to minus 8 plus or minus square root minus 8 squared minus 4 brackets minus 11 square root all divided by 2 brackets a to b 4. Now if we summarize this, we're going to get x value as, if you write minus 8, that's going to that's actually going to give you a positive 8 value. So it's going to be 8 plus or minus square root. I'm going to put all these values in the calculator, so just hold on for a moment. Minus 11, that's going to give us a positive, 240 divided by 8. Now you can simplify this equation so that we get a value of about let's just put 8 plus square root 240 divided by 8. That's going to give us a value of 2 plus or minus square root 15 divided by 2. Like I said, x is going to be equivalent to 2 plus or minus square root 15 divided by 2. This is going to give us the same answers as what the calculator has given us. So we have applied the quadratic formula rules, and we're confirming our answers are correct. So they are correct. All right, let's move on to the next question. Now the next question shows us a bit of graph question. So we can see that this is the equation in this case. All right, that we would like to specify. So the diagram shows us the curve with equation y is equal to 2x squared minus 8x plus 3. Find and simplify exact coordinates of points where the curve crosses the x-axis. Now this is, you have to understand this type of question because this is a graphing question. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the quadratic formula in this case, since we have to find out the points where the curve crosses the x-axis. So what that means is you're going to get two x values on this quadratic graph, right? Since I mentioned that you have to find where the curve crosses the x-axis. So as you guys can see, the diagram sketched on the graph is that there has to be two x values equivalent on this graph. So we have to find two x values. So we are going to write down the equation y is equal to 2x squared minus 8x plus 3. And we're going to immediately start writing the ax squared plus bx plus c is equivalent to 0. We know that a's value is 2, we know b's value is minus 8, and we know c's value to be as 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing the quadratic formula down. Always write down your quadratic formula. X is equivalent to, let's just write x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now all you're going to do is you're going to substitute this values into the equation like we did in step 1 as well. So we're going to write, be careful of the negative signs, by the way, in this equation. So you have x is equivalent to minus 8 plus or minus square root b squared to be 2 squared minus 4 brackets a to be as 2, put in brackets 3 divided by 2a to be 2 times 2. So you have 8 plus or minus square root. Do simplify it from within. Do not immediately type out this whole equation into the calculator. That's not a good choice. So if you do this kind of values, your b squared is, oh sorry guys, b squared is actually minus 8. So it's not 2, sorry guys. So it's going to be brackets minus 8. So we're going to rewrite this equation again. Minus 4 times 3 give us a value of 40. So you have 8 plus or minus 40 divided by 4. Now we can put this equation in the form in our calculator as 8 plus square root of 40 divided by 4, just to give us the simplified version of this question. So we're going to get 4 plus or minus square root 10 divided by 2. That should be our answer. If you guys want to confirm this value in our calculator, I'm just going to confirm it just in case if it's correct. And our x values on the calculator is correct, as accurate. Like I said, it's going to be 4 plus or minus square root 10. It's going to give us two values, both in negative. Now you guys can simplify since the question has stated to simplify, right? So we have to find and simplify exact coordinates of the points. So what you guys can do is then we have to find 2 points. So if you simplify this, you will get this in the form of, if you guys do as 4 divided by 2 plus or minus square root 10 divided by 2, so that you guys will get a value, x value, to be as 2. Since you simplified, 2 plus or minus half of square root 10, since half comes from the divided by 2 sign. So your answer, in conclusion, is that you have to find 2 minus half square root 10 comma 0, since it's x comma 0, and it's going to be another value as well, 2 plus half square root 10 comma 0 as well. So these are your two x coordinates which are going to appear on the graph as it is mentioned in the question. All right, so that's going to be our answer. Let's move on to the next question. Now the next question is more of a It's more of a discriminant question, so it's by evaluating the discriminant, determine whether the roots of each equation are real and distinct, real and equal, or not real. So I'm going to explain what the discriminant is in this question. So discriminants are, let's say, it's just a part of the quadratic formula that is under the square root sign of the quadratic formula symbol. So what I mean by this is, I'm going to write down the quadratic formula just to show you guys. So it's going to be x is equivalent to minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. The discriminant is this part. It's just the area. It's just the area under the square root sign. So that is b squared minus 4ac. This is called the discriminant, all right? So it's going to be called the discriminant, okay? It is sometimes denoted by the Greek letter capital delta, so it's somewhere like this, like a triangle, but like a right angle triangle. You can mention that, but you guys don't require that kind of knowledge yet for this type of question. So there are three options for the outcome of the discriminant, so which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So it's going to be your b squared. There are three rules that you guys have to understand. Is that for the discriminant you have b squared minus 4ac greater than 0. This is where the quadratic crosses the x-axis twice, meaning that there are two real roots. There are two distinct real roots. So you're going to mention that it's going to be two real roots. And the other outcome is b squared minus 4ac is equivalent to 0. This is where it has only one real root. And the other part is where b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. This is where the quadratic does not cross the x-axis, meaning that there are no real roots. Now you guys can mention this in terms of graphs. I think you guys know how it will look like. For no real roots is that the graph won't touch the x-axis or the y-intercept as well. But it won't touch the x-axis at all. That just shows that it has no real roots. Okay, so now with this knowledge of discriminants, we're going to start answering the questions. By the way, discriminants and inequalities are kind of related to each other if you're doing this type of question. Okay, so now what does the question ask us? They ask us to evaluate the discriminant and to determine whether this is having two real roots, one real root, or no real roots. So I'm just going to write down this thing again somewhere here. So you have 2 by 5 x squared plus 3 by 5 of x plus 1 by 3 is equivalent to 0. Now based on this, we're going to analyze if it has real roots or no real roots. So we're going to use the b squared, the equation that is the area under the quadratic formula square root sign. So that is your discriminant, like I said, highlighted here. So you're going to have b squared minus 4ac, and you're going to test all the theories just in case. Alright, so we're just going to leave it as it is without putting the sign symbols like greater than symbol, less than symbol, or equal symbol. So we know the ax squared plus bx plus c is equivalent to 0. Like I said, we're going to use this equation throughout quadratic graphs and the discriminants. Alright, so we have to find out a value. A is 2 by 5, b is 3 by 5, and c is 1 by 3, 1/3. Now we're going to plug it into this equation over here. So b squared is, I'm just going to write it down there so that we can see it. So it's going to be 3 by 5, all in brackets, square root minus 4, put in brackets a, 2 by 5, put in brackets c, 1 by 3rd. So once you simplify this, you should be getting a value of about, in your calculator. Do use your calculator for the exam. It's much better because they allow you guys to do that in the exam itself. So you're going to put this in your calculator and you should be getting a fraction of about minus 13, negative 13 divided by 75. Now this should be your value. Now what can you understand? The decimal form of this is negative 0.1733, right? So 0.1733. That's going to be the negative the notation in decimal form. So it's going to be negative 0.1733. We know that which rule applies here. You can see that the value here we got, it is less than 0. So that means since this is negative 13 divided by 75 is less than 0, that means the answer, it just says that there are no real roots. That's going to be our answer in this case, because the value of what you got from b squared minus 4ac, since it is less than 0, it shows that there are no real roots. That means the graph, or let's say the x-intercepts, are not known. All right? You just know your y-intercepts here. The x-intercepts are not known. So that means it's just going to be not real roots. So you're going to mention this point here. So it's going to be not real. All right? Okay, so that seems to be the answer. It's not real. There are no real roots. That's going to be the answer. Question 4. Question 4 is going to be interesting for all of you guys because it's going to be more of sketching. So those who like to draw might enjoy this type of question, all right? Okay. Sketch the graph of y equals 2x squared plus 5x minus 12, stating the coordinates of the x-intercepts and the turning point. So the first thing that I would like to do for this type of question for you guys is to write down your equation. So it's going to be y equals 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. I'm going to state what the a, b, and c values are. So you have ax squared plus bx plus c is equivalent to 0. We know a's value to be as 2. We know b's value to be as 5. We know c's value to be as negative 12. Okay? Now, what are you going to do is, since we know what the a, b, and c values are, I would like you guys to solve this equation to get the value of x. So that means we're going to apply the factorizing form of this equation. Do check on my video on factorization. I think it's somewhat there. All right. So you have y is equal to 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. I'm not going to factorize it here. I'm just going to use a calculator just to show you guys how to sketch the graph. I'm just going to use the calculator just to find out the values for x. So x value is going to be, x1 is going to be 1.5. x2 value is going to give us a negative 4. So that's going to be your x value in this case. Alright, this is when y is equivalent to 0. So that means your coordinates is going to be 1.5 comma 0 minus 4 comma 0, like we did in the previous questions. Now, you have to find out what is the y-axis intercept. So we have found out our x-intercepts. Now we have to find out the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, I'm just going to increase the boldness of this so that we can see it much more clearly. The y-intercept, alright, for this is, these are the x-intercepts, by the way. I'm just going to mention that these are the x-intercepts. We have found the x-intercepts. Now we have to find the y-intercept by stating x is equivalent to 0. Okay, so we're going to set x is equal to 0 for the y-axis intercept. And we have the equation clearly there. So you have y is equal to 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. So you're going to have y is equal to 2, brackets 0 raised to the power of 2, 5 brackets 0 minus 12. You're going to just substitute x value of 0 into this equation of y. So you're going to get y's value to be roughly about, I'm just going to put this in the equation. So you're going to get a value of about minus 12. So your y-intercept for when x is equivalent to 0 is going to be 0 comma minus 12. This is going to be your y-intercept for this kind of graph. So now we have found out the y-intercept, we have found out the x-intercepts. Now all we need now is the turning points. We need the turning point of this equation. So now the turning point can be found out by completing the square. So in this way, you guys have to know how to complete the square. So once you complete the square, you're going to get a y is equal to 2 brackets x plus 5 by 4 square root minus 121 divided by 8. So this is just the completed the square method. So do understand how to complete the square for this equation, all right? We're just completing the square for that equation. I'm not going to show all the processes, but I'm just going to mention that you have to just complete the square. So once you get this form of equation while completing the square, your turning points is going to be this value here of x and this value here of y. Since it's going to be x plus 5 by 4 is going to be equivalent to 0, you're going to get x value to be as minus 5 by 4. So that's the reason why we inverse the signs for the value of x, whereas the value of y of the turning point will remain the same. So your turning point is going to be minus 5 by 4, comma, minus 121 divided by 8. Now, we have found out the turning points, we have found out the y-intercept, and we have found out the x-intercepts. Now, what we need to do is now to sketch the graph. So while sketching the graph, you're going to draw a nice smooth y and x-axis. Okay, since this is just a sketching, you don't need to mention the grid lines. We know the x-axis intercepts to be a 1.5, so that's going to be somewhere here. Just going to mention 3 by 2 comma 0. That's going to be a line there. And it's a negative 4, so it's going to be negative 4 comma 0, somewhere there as well. We have plotted the x-intercepts. Now we have to plot the y-intercepts. We know y's intercept is going to be negative 12. So it's going to be somewhere here, 0 comma negative 12. This is going to be your y-intercepts. Okay, somewhere here. And your turning point, since our turning point is negative, is all in negative for the x value, and for the y value, we know it's negative 5 by 4. That is somewhere roughly around here. I think somewhere roughly around there, yeah. Should be somewhere lower to it. Now what you're going to do is since it's a sketch, you don't need to label the axis. So you're just going to draw a straight curving line. Just draw a smooth curved line across the graph, and once you do that, you have your x-intercepts, you have your y-intercepts, and you have your turning point, and you have drawn a nice smooth curved line just to show the quadratic graph's smooth curve. Since this is a positive quadratic, it's going to be a U-shaped graph. So this seems to be the answer. I'm just going to show you guys working. Find your x-intercepts, find your y-intercepts, find the turning point, and just draw a smooth curve. That's all you need. Okay, now let's move on to the final question. Now the final question is that given that the x-axis is a tangent to the curve with the equation y is equal to x squared plus, I think this is rx, yeah, rx minus 2x plus 4, find two possible values of constant r. Now, this seems to be a little bit of a strong question, actually, so what we need to do is that we're going to use the discriminant rule for solving this type of question. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to use the green pen so that you guys can see the formula. So it's going to be x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Once you do that, b squared minus 4ac is going to be your discriminant. So you're going to write that down. B squared minus 4ac is going to be equivalent to anything, I think to 0, but in this case, we're just going to leave it as it is. So we're not going to put the inequality signs or the equal, greater than, or less than signs. We're just going to leave it as b squared minus 4ac. Since they have equal roots, I think because it is to find possible values of constant r, I think we can put equivalent to 0. So we know the a value to be, let's say, in this case, your b value is going to be r minus 2. Now the reason is because I'm just going to show you guys how to rearrange this equation. So you have the equation here, right? You can see that. I'm going to write it down here. Y is equal to x squared plus rx minus 2x plus 4. Now I'm going to use the blue pen just to show you guys the difference. You can see the r here and you can see the 2 there, negative 2. You're going to combine and merge both of them to give you a value of y is equal to x squared plus r minus 2, this is in brackets x plus 4. Now your a value is going to be 1, your b value is going to be r minus 2, and your c value is going to be a positive 4. This is going to be your values while rearranging the equation. Since they both have x as the value there, we're going to do r minus 2. Now your b value is going to be r minus 2, so it's going to be r minus 2 raised to the power square minus 4. A is going to be 1 and C is going to be 4 as well, equivalent to 0. If you rearrange that equation, r minus 2 square, that's going to be minus 4 times 4. That's going to be a minus 16 equivalent to 0. Now what you're going to do is you're going to open up the brackets. So you're going to have, let's say you're going to open up all those brackets to get r square minus 2r positive 4 minus 16. You're going to continue simplifying this equation to give you r squared minus 2r, give you minus 4r 4 minus 16 is going to give you minus 12 is equivalent to 0. Now you're going to use this equation and you're going to find out the value of r by just factorizing. So you're going to apply the same process of factorization of ax squared plus bx plus c in this equation. So you have 1 minus 4 minus 12. You're going to get a value of r1 to be as 6 and r2 to be as minus 2. These are going to be your two values for r. They have equal roots. All right, so this is to find the two possible values of constant r. So it's going to be 6 and or minus 2. So you're going to mention that it's going to be 6 or r2 is going to be equivalent to minus 2. So this is a way where you use the discriminant rule and you use the quadratic formula and you just rearrange your equation to ax squared plus bx plus c, find out the values of a, b, and c, and just apply that into the equation. Just plug it into the equation or substitute it into the equation and just rearrange it, expand your brackets, and just factorize that equation, your final equation, to find the values of r. When we got r1 to be as 6 and r2 to be as minus 2. So you got two values, minus 2 or 6. Okay, so this seems to be the end of all the questions. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And by the way, my other videos are going to be posted right now on the screen. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can comment below, or any thoughts about this video on whether I should start continuing solving questions related to topic wise questions or questions related to past papers. Do comment below on what your thoughts are. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, bye guys.